at the day when we realize we can live with those losses. We've survived them because we know there are blessings of love that are following right behind. And those blessings come to us because we have family and friends and because we have faith. The faith that that day of resurrection will be the day that we see new possibilities, have new opportunities, and can stand forth and see what God has in mind. Ernest Holmes said, "The only thing that remains constant is our Creator's insatiable desire to make all things new. God has no attachment to form, only to movement and love's expression. What God creates is eternal and is never lost." Can you believe that? That it's eternal and never lost? If that's true for you, then you will find your day of resurrection. You will see it, you will know it, you will feel it and experience it. You will find that joy in it, because that will be your reminder that God's presence is always around us, always surrounding and supporting us. I know sometimes we feel like we fall backwards and we don't do what we should do. I think Paul worded it best. "I do not understand what I do. For what I want to do, I do not do. And what I hate, I do." We've probably all had those opportunities, those situations where we see that. But I see resurrection as a season of second chances, new opportunities, perhaps a do-over, a way to make things right, maybe even a pardon or a reprieve. Who knows? But we have those second chances, and that's what the resurrection is. It's our second chance. Recently, we did a study of the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, and it was kind of interesting because every story we read was God saying, "I love you, I will protect you." And the Hebrews saying, "We're going to do it our own way," and being disobedient. God only asked for loyalty and obedience, and try as they did, they could not seem to manage it on a consistent level. So God had to keep reminding them about the covenant that they had agreed to. Next day, they'd break it. God would remind them and they would break it again. That just shows us how eternal God's love is. Now, sometimes God would perhaps do something that might make them think. For example, God might ask for a sacrifice. "Abraham, give me your son." Abraham starts to comply. And at the last minute, God grants a reprieve and provides a ram caught in the thicket for Abraham to sacrifice instead of his son. There are so many stories in the Bible that have this same theme over and over again. Joseph, the man with the coat of many colors, was sold into slavery by his jealous brothers. He ended up in Egypt, and in Egypt he rose to a high-ranking position in the government because of his ability to forgive and to be merciful. When the famine hit and his brothers were looking for food, they came to Joseph not knowing who it was, but he recognized them immediately. And as he did, he said to them, "Come, share, and bring your whole family, bring your father, bring your brothers," because he knew that there were other people left at home. And he held the one youngest brother as a ransom until they brought the whole family together. And when they did, the whole family came together in forgiveness and in mercy and in love. What the brothers meant for evil, God used for good. Moses, as an infant, was saved from death by the Pharaoh's daughter. And Moses, of course, became the leader of his people, and he led his people out of bondage and right to the edge of the promised land. But Moses was not allowed to go into that promised land because his disobedience had prevented it. He was going to do things his own way, not God's way. And you know, all of these stories are nothing but a foreshadowing of the coming of the Christ. Christ represents Abraham's faith, the ram that was sacrificed, the mercy and forgiveness of Joseph, and Moses' rise to leadership, as well as his downfall by being disobedient. And all of those are the foreshadowing of what comes for us. Now, we have this ability to recognize that resurrection that we are facing, that when it comes, it makes us new again. It makes us whole again. And we have the opportunity to see in our life, all of those stories are God in action. If I were to yell right now, would I get your attention? That's what those Bible stories are for. God wants our attention to understand how to live. It's God saying, can you hear me now? I'm talking to you. And how many of us are listening? Hopefully all of us. In Unity, we use prayer and meditation as a way to talk to God and to listen to God. You know, I find myself probably talking a lot more than I should and listening a lot less than I should. But I discovered that I am the star of my own movie. Yeah. It happens to be Groundhog Day, where I'm living it over and over and over again. I think we've all been there. And at some point in my life, I began to think, why is this happening over and over again? What am I doing? What am I not doing? And then I remember, go back to the basics. Go back to the basics. And the basics for me, as I learned in Unity, is practicing denial and affirmations. When I deny something, what I'm denying is that anything has power over me other than God. Anything can control me, that I let it. And so I choose not to let it. And then when I affirm that beautiful song, I am, that is so perfect. That is our affirmation. When we use the I am, any words that follow it create for us that understanding that this is my truth. This is who I am. Now, I know sometimes it's hard to say affirmations because maybe we say something and we don't quite believe it. And the reason we don't believe it is because that little voice in our head says, oh, sure, yeah, right, I believe that. So if we don't believe something, it's hard to say it with conviction. If we don't feel the feeling, it's hard to understand what it means to us. If our consciousness cannot hold the thoughts that we have just spoken, it means nothing. But we have that opportunity to try those affirmations and to repair them if they're not working. So what I've decided to do this morning is give you a visual demonstration of how everything works with affirmations and so forth. So I have a bunch of containers here, and I want you to think of them as the brain and the consciousness and what it can hold. So when you say an affirmation, Spirit is going to pour the answer to that affirmation to cause it to demonstrate in your life, assuming that you don't have that small voice inside negating exactly what you wanted to affirm. And so this morning, my affirmation is, I am an excellent gardener. And now when I say that, what happens? What did I hear? I am an excellent gardener. Oh yeah, you don't have any green thumb, trust me. And so I can't accept it because Spirit knows that I'm not hearing it. I'm not agreeing with it. And so I'm going to get a bigger container. That ought to do it. Sturdy one, nice metal, hard. Okay, so I am an excellent gardener. And the voice I hear says, who do you think you are to deserve an ability like that? I guess my affirmation had holes in it. It won't hold a thing. Now the next item I have, probably most of you have one of these at home yourself. It's my kitchen drawer. That's my junk drawer. Does anybody have one of these besides me? It may not be in your kitchen. It might be in another room in your house. But when I look at it, I realize what's happening to me. And so when I say I am an excellent gardener, the voice says, your life is too cluttered for you to learn anything new. All right, well, am I going to give up? Not yet. One more try. And when I come at it this time, I have a clear glass in which to receive my blessings because I am clear about what I want. But I'm going to change my affirmation just slightly. Saying I am doesn't quite work in this case because I haven't been a very good gardener, as my little voice has told me. So I'm going to add a couple words. I am willing to be an excellent gardener. And because I am a child of God, I am grateful for all my blessings. And as I looked around the house, what did I find? I found a gardening book that had been my father's. My father was a horticulturalist, had his own plant nursery, and grew beautiful things. And so I know that I can read and I can understand and I can learn and I can grow. And speaking of gardeners, that kind of brings us right back to the place in the story where we are this morning, in that garden with Mary, who is searching, who has looked in the tomb and found that the body that she came to anoint is not there. What is she going to do? And she goes out and she starts looking around, and she actually, as she turns, she sees Jesus, but she doesn't recognize that it's Jesus. She doesn't know who it is. He looks so different. And he speaks to her and he says, woman, why are you crying? Who is it you're looking for? And she turns around and still thinking he is the gardener, she says, where have you put his body? Where have you laid my Lord? Tell me so I can go to him. And at that, Jesus reveals himself. And when he does, she is overwhelmed with joy because it came true. The resurrection actually happened. He rose from the dead just as he promised he would. And she is so excited. And do you know that when you have your day of resurrection, it may happen that your family and friends might not recognize you either. The changes that will take place in your body, in your face, in your mind. Because I believe that if you want to change your looks, change the way you look at life. What an amazing difference that will make. And I do believe that prayer changes things. Although I've certainly heard people say, oh, prayer won't change anything, don't worry about it. And I think it was made as a strong statement to demonstrate the greater truth, the deeper truth, that what prayer changes is us. And that's why Jesus reminded us to pray. And not only does prayer change us, but I got 4 examples of how prayer can change the situation. It's goes deep into our roots to find these examples. That Moses asked God to change his mind and prayed about it, and God did. Elijah asked God to change the situation, and God did. Jesus prayed that Lazarus would come forth out of the tomb, would live again, and he did. And my fourth demonstration, I read in the newspaper. There's a little town down the road called Brooksville. In the South, we call it the fur piece down the road. But in that little town, one year they were experiencing the most terrible drought that they had ever seen. The crops were dying in the field, and they knew that this community could not survive it because this community depended on agriculture as the way the entire town survived. One of the local ministers put a notice out. He said, "We are having a prayer service Friday night at 5 o'clock. Be in the town square. We are praying for rain." Friday night, 5 o'clock came. The farmers and their families and their farmhands came in from the fields. The bankers came in with their families. The businessmen shut down their businesses and brought their families into that town center. The ladies' auxiliary came, the men's group came, the school children all came, and they were there. They knew they needed to pray and to be together to do it. And the pastor looked around. He was excited. And he was really excited when he looked down and saw this little girl there. She had the biggest smile on her face, and he called her up, and he picked her up, and he lifted her high so that everybody could see her, because in her hand was an umbrella. She came for rain. And as we turn with them this morning in prayer, I remind us the words of Jesus, "Not my will, but thy will." And as we go into that space, that heart space of knowing that Jesus' prayer for us is that we grow and we understand, and that we can at some point say, "Not my will, but thy will." And we will discover a life of peace and harmony. And that life we share with others. And so it is. Amen.
A girl each week, Sunday we would go to church.
Forgive me, I'm not even. And this is so lovely, I don't want to mess it up, Jim. I apologize.
Thank you.
I double transposed it instead of.
When I was a girl each week, on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. And he would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread. Everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad that miracles don't happen still, but now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips. But now I have to hold my breath, 'cause I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-downs. But now I walk with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. 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 Yes, everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Read a questioning child's face and say it's not a testament. Well, that'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how it's changed since then. 'Cause everything is holy now. Everything a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-downs. Now I walk in with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Yes, everything is holy now. 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 Everything is holy now.
Blow me away with that music every time. Well, this is the time in the service when we bless our offerings and understand that we aren't passing any offering plate, but we're leaving the offering bags at the back. And when you leave, your generosity is greatly appreciated. And this morning's affirmation is, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Together now, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And we are blessed indeed. Our prayer chaplain this morning on duty is Emily, and Emily will be up front here for prayer after the service. And we appreciate your service, Emily. And now, peace on. They have a new song for us.